Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to learn about community ecology. That is the third part of this series, where we are going to learn about definitions or terms like cover, frequency, distribution, different life forms, and biological spectrum. A small number of species in the community sometimes exert strong control on that community structure, especially on the composition, relative abundance, and diversity of the species. So this kind of a species are called as keystone species. The species diversity of a community is a variety of different kinds of organisms that make up the community. It has two components, species richness and its relative abundance. Species richness is the total number of different species in the community, whereas the relative abundance of the different species in proportion each species represents of the total individuals in the community. So the species richness and relative abundance is are the two components of species diversity. In a community, the dynamics are decided by the trophic structure. It is determined by feeding relationships between organisms. The transfer of food energy up the trophic levels from its source as in autotrophs, that is the photosynthetic organisms, through herbivores, that is primary consumers, and carnivores, secondary and tertiary consumers, and eventually to decomposers is called as a food chain. Charles Elton recognized that in 1920, he recognized that food chains are not isolated units, but are linked together into food webs. A food web uses arrows to link species according to who eats whom in a community. How are these food chains linked into food webs? A given species may weave into the web at more than one trophic level. Food webs can be simplified in two ways. We can group species in a given community into broad functional groups. For example, phytoplankton can be grouped as primary producer in an aquatic food web. A second way to simplify a food web is to isolate a portion of the web that interacts little with the rest of the community. Each food chain within a food web is usually only a few links long. Why is this so? This is because nature has seen that the efficiency of energy transfer from one trophic level to the other trophic level comes down as you go up in the food pyramid. So the food chain is usually few links only, that is, it is few links long, so that the energy is efficiently passed on from one trophic level to the other trophic level. The more number of links, the lesser energy will be passing on. We have seen about keystone species in the first slide. Dominant species and keystone species exert very strong control on community structure. Not only the food webs and food chains, the community structure is also affected by dominant species and keystone species. Dominant species are those species in a community that are most abundant or have the highest biomass, that is the sum weight of all the individuals in a population. So if in a quadrant we have 10 mango plants, 5 hibiscus plants, and 3 or 4 grass plants, then the dominant species of this particular quadrant becomes a mango plant because it is having the highest number and also highest biomass. There is no single explanation for why a species becomes dominant in a community. There are only hypotheses, and one suggests that dominant species are competitively successful at exploiting limited resources. So if naturally in the ecosystem the resources are limited. Now in these conditions, because they are quite competitive and try to suppress the other plant species, these become dominant there. Another hypothesis suggests that dominant species are more successful at avoiding predation and disease. So this is a dominant species. Their number is great. Biomass also is great. What about the keystone species? Certain species have especially large impact on the community structure because they are highly abundant or because they play a very pivotal role in community dynamics. Here, we should not think about the highly abundant, but we are thinking about a pivotal role in the community dynamics. If they are playing a pivotal role in community dynamics, they are called as keystone species. They have an exaggerated impact through their trophic interactions or through their influences on the physical environment. They are not necessarily abundant. They influence community structure by their key ecological niches. If keystone species are removed, community structure is greatly affected. Ecologist Robert Payne of the University of Washington first developed the concept of this keystone species. Some organisms exert their influence by causing physical changes in the environment that affect the community structure. An example of such a species is a beaver, which transforms landscapes by felling trees and building dams. Such species are called ecosystem engineers or foundation species. These influential species act as facilitators with positive effects on the survival and reproduction of other species. So we have learned now about the dominant species, keystone species, and the foundation species or the engineers. Let us now come to the next topic, that is cover. Cover is the area of ground surface covered by vegetation or other coverages including rocks, litter, moss, or bare ground. Cover is expressed as a percentage of area. For example, if you look at this particular quadrant below, you might estimate that the area is covered by 35% grass, 12% wildflower, and 15% rock. Then the bare ground, that is area which is not covered by any vegetation or rocks, would be 38%. So this is a cover. It is assessed to describe which plants dominate the water and nutrient resources on a site. Vegetative cover is also an important characteristic that affects the hydrological attributes of the site. It can be measured for the entire vegetation in an area. For example, total vegetative cover was 45%, or can be applied to individual species. Example, sagebrush cover was 10 to 15%. So this is how you explain about the entire vegetation in one particular area. There are 4 different types of cover called as, the first one is basal cover. The proportion of the plant that extends into the soil. Compared to other estimates of cover, basal cover is more stable from year to year and less sensitive to changes due to climatic fluctuation. It is not affected by utilization by grazing animals. It is usually used for trend comparisons or for calculations of species composition. It can be difficult to measure for forbs or grasses with a single small stem. Then comes the second type of cover, that is canopy cover. An estimate of the area of influence of the plant. It includes influence of the roots below the leaf stem canopy. It ignores the gaps in the canopy. Vertical projection of the outermost perimeter of a natural spread of foliage of the plants. So if you have a mango plant or a banyan tree, the entire foliage or the entire area which is covered by the foliage is called as the canopy cover. Here in between leaves there are some gaps. That gap it is not considering. It ignores that gap. So the entirety, so like an umbrella, whatever the leaf is, the entire leaves are occupying, that will come under the canopy cover. For any area, the total canopy cover can exceed 100% because plants can overlap. Because as an example, you can take the tall plants and the tall trees, below which the trees, below which the shrubs, and below which the herbs could grow. Now all of them have canopy. So if you add the entire canopy of all the plants, you will get more than 100% in that particular area. Then foliar cover. It is a vertical projection of exposed leaf area. The cover would equal the shadow cast if the sun was directly overhead. This will definitely be lesser than the canopy cover. It is exactly the area which is occupied by the leaf. Small openings in the canopy or overlap within the plant are excluded. This does not happen in canopy, but here it is happening if you are taking only the shadow cast by the leaf when if the sun is right on top of it. Highly susceptible to yearly fluctuations due to climatic or biotic factors, like it could be because of diseases, the leaf might fall. Then the foliar cover also decreases. Or in temperate areas during autumn, the leaf falls, or deciduous forest, the leaves fall during the winter season. So there the foliar cover completely comes down. It can be difficult to measure except for some growth forms. Easiest to measure for forbs, shrubs or succulents with large leaves, that is like cactus. Leaf area index is common way of measuring of foliar cover. Then the last one is ground cover. It is cover of the soil surface with plants, litter, biotic soil, crust, that is mosses or lichens, etc., rocks or gravel. This is called as a ground cover. Most often used to determine the watershed stability of the site. It commonly includes in measures of sparsely vegetative communities. Example, deserts. So this is a diagrammatic representation of various types of covers, that is the basal, canopy and foliar. Of course, you do not see the ground here because the ground is the entirety of the soil, everything which is present on the soil. So here basal cover, you are able to see whatever is occupied by the main root and also the main stem comes under the basal cover. The portion of the plant that grows into the soil surface, whatever portion is going down, that only will be taken on top also. That is called as a basal cover. Canopy cover is the entirety of the leaves, everything. As you see here, even the gaps are present in this canopy cover. The area below the plant that covers the soil surface. That means even the leaves, branches, stem, everything, whatever it is covering, the entire thing comes under the canopy. And foliar means only the leaf part. That means the area of this leaf plus area of this leaf plus area of this leaf. So like this, the area of leaves only will be taken directly above. It does not include the place in between the leaves. That is the shadow, if it is cast down on the soil surface, these leaf gaps will be taken off. Only the area of the leaves will be taken. So these are the different types of covers that you can see along with the ground cover. Now, as we have learned, a community structure is influenced by the quantitative value of each of frequency, density, basal area, cover, that is the dominance. Frequency refers to the degree of dispersion of individual species in an area, and usually it is expressed in terms of percentage occurrence. Mango tree is 10 to 15% in that particular area. That is an example. Density is an expression of numerical strength of a species where the total number of individuals of each species is divided by the total number of quadrant studies. Cover is an expression of the area covered or occupied by different species and is usually given as percentage. The cover may be studied both at canopy level and also at the ground level. Cover is of great ecological significance because although the frequency and density of trees or shrubs may be lower than those of smaller plants, yet the dominating influence of tree may be greater in a community because of their more extensive canopy or basal area coverage. So the basal cover and canopy cover of trees is very, very huge. In a community, the total picture of ecological importance cannot be obtained by any one of these frequency, density or cover. Therefore, in order to have a really overall picture of an ecological importance of a species with respect to the community structure, the percentage values of the relative frequency, relative density and relative dominance are added together. The structure of natural community depends on the way on which plants are distributed or dispersed within it. The pattern of distribution again depends on both the physico-chemical nature of the environment as well as biological peculiarities of the organism themselves. Now, let us come to the life form and biological spectrum. The climate determines the type of plant that can exist in each region. Physiognomy is the general appearance of vegetation. It constitutes general structure, shape, and life form of the species comprising the vegetation. The species of a community can be grouped into several life forms on the basis of general appearance and growth. These life forms are to some extent indicators of the climate. The life form is the sum of adaptation of plants to the climate. The life forms is usually referred by the botanist Ronquier in 1934, Danish botanist Ronquier in 1934, considering that the way in which different species overcome the adverse conditions determine their limits of distribution. Thus, plants' climate can be expressed by the statistical distribution of life forms in the flora of a particular region. So, we can determine the plant's climate, or we can say we can determine that particular environment by looking at the distribution of these life forms. On the basis of position of pollinating buds on the plants and the degree of their protection during adverse conditions, Ronquier classified higher plants into 5 major life form classes. The first one, according to Ronquier, is phanerophyte, where pollinating buds are located on the upright shoot much above the ground surface. Phanerophyte may be further subdivided into 4 categories depending upon their size. Megaphanerophytes, these are tall trees, height over 30 meters. Mesophanerophytes, trees having height between 8 to 30 meters. Microphanerophytes, trees having or plants having height between 2 to 8 meters. And nanophanerophytes, height under 2 meters. These are mainly the shrubs. All these are trees. The nanophanerophytes are the shrubs. But whether it is a mega, meso, micro or nano phanerophyte, they are all above the ground, at least 2 meters above the ground. So these are all aerial plants which are having their pollinating buds on their shoots. The second category is a chemophyte, where the buds are located close to the ground surface. In a hemicryptophyte, the buds are present just under the surface soil and remain protected there. So you can see that phanerophytes are those plants which are above 2 meters height. Chemophytes are the plants which are under 2 meters height. Hemicryptophytes are just below the surface of soil, whereas cryptophytes are having pollinating buds remain under the ground and reserve food material is stored in these subterranean pollinating areas. If you take grass as a hemicryptophyte, then rhizomes, corms could be cryptophytes where their pollinating buds are under the ground and reserve food material also is preserved in these underground pollinating areas. Then therophytes are the plants which complete their life cycle in a single favorable season and survive the adverse season in the form of seeds. Now, when you go to either deserts or in cold areas where there is a lot of snowfall, there the plants flower, grow, that is the seeds germinate, grow, reproduce and again produce the seeds and pollinate the unfavorable season. That is, all the seasons are unfavorable except for one growing season. In that growing season, they complete their life cycle and pollinate the adverse condition in the form of seeds. So these are the 5 types: phanerophytes, chemophytes, then hemicryptophyte, cryptophyte and therophytes are the 5 forms of life according to Ronquier. The ratio of the life forms of different species in terms of number or percentage in any floristic community is called as the biological spectrum or phytoclimatic spectrum. Since the life form is related to the environment around the plants, the biological spectrum is also regarded as indicative of prevailing environment. So, what is the biological spectrum here? So, this is nothing but in any biological spectrum is nothing but the availability or the growth of different species in terms of percentage or numbers in different life forms is called as a biological spectrum, and this is mainly dependent upon the environment around the plants. So since life forms are dependent upon the environment, biological spectrum is also regarded as indicative of prevailing environment. So already Ronquier in 1934 had prepared a normal biological spectrum. Now, if we want to prepare our own biological spectrum, we have to collect the life forms of different life forms of one particular area and compare it with that of the Ronquier's normal biological spectrum. He had prepared a normal biological spectrum based on sampling of world flora using 1000 entities. We can compare our study with this. His normal biological spectrum has phanerophytes, generally are up to 46%, hemiphytes are up to 9%, hemicryptophytes are up to 26%, cryptophytes are up to 6%, and theraphytes are up to 13% in this world. So this is his formulation of biological spectrum. This is the biological spectrum that Ronquier had made in 1934. Now, if we want to work out our own biological spectrum, we can do that and compare with the Ronquier's normal spectrum. Then we will understand the effect of climate and other ecological factors on the present vegetation. Thank you.